All right, guys. Welcome to Helmets and Hoops. This is Haytham Hassan, Sean Samlal, and Matt Wilson. We're going to be talking today about the 11 skill players that were drafted in the first round of this NFL draft. That happened this past April 23rd through the 26th. All right, we're going to get right into it with the first pick, Mr. Joseph Burrow out of LSU. Let's talk about him first. It's not really much to say, but in my opinion, I think he's a slam dunk pick. I know Chase Young is one of the best prospects to be in drafts for years to come, or for the past few years. But Bengals, they definitely weren't working out with Andy Dalton. Yeah, they made playoffs, but they have not won a single playoff game with him. Some could be said about Marvin Lewis with that, but the year after he left, they went winless, or damn near winless. So maybe he was doing a lot better than people thought. However, I still think it's a good pick. All the records broken at LSU. Can't really argue it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love the pick. They had to go quarterback here. Anybody who can throw 60 touchdowns in the SEC is worth the spot here. I just wish that every pick after him helped him on the offensive line. They did nothing this entire offseason, basically, to improve one of the worst offensive lines in the game.
Yeah, that is very true.
They signed Xavier Su'a-Filo, who has been a backup his entire career, and drafted, I think, a tackle in the 6th round. That's like literally the only thing they did. And it just boggled my mind. But I guess you had to start somewhere, and this is a great pick.
Well, I mean, as a Ravens fan, I am not too mad about their offensive line. So that's not my worries. Our D-line is about to get up in that.
Jesus.
So, Joe Burrow, get ready. The rookie year is not going to be as good as he thought it was going to be.
I mean, it's interesting to see how he does. It's interesting to see how he does because he is 23 years old, so he's a little bit older for a rookie. He only had that one good year. Aside from that, no one saw it coming. Mm-hmm. Good on the ground, in the air. Got his offensive coordinator a job in Carolina with Matt Rule. So, I mean, everyone's benefited from that. So it's interesting to see because he has everything to succeed in that Cincinnati offense. So he's going to be good he should be fine, have a good baseline for fantasy and for real life football. They have AJ Green as long as he doesn't hold out. The good slot in Tyler Boyd, and then T. Higgins they drafted in the beginning of the 2nd round, who's a good player. So they're giving him and Mixon, of course. They're giving him everything he needs to succeed. So I'm interested to see how he does. He showed maturity in the pocket. We're back at LSU last year. He was able to throw with anticipation, which was very good, and was very accurate on his throws. So I think, that's stuff that is easily transferable into the NFL. He's not getting a lot of yards off running or anything. He's carving them up in the pocket, which is what you want a quarterback to do. So I'm excited to see how it translates and how he does in his first season as a pro. So
perfect.
All right. So next on the list, we have the second quarterback. Everyone's number one quarterback at the end of last year until injury hit him, Tua Tagovailoa. He was selected 5th overall by Miami out of Alabama. Roll Tide. When we're talking about Joe Burrow and we're talking about like a perfect situation, he a good offense and a good landing place for a quarterback, Miami is the opposite. They have a Devontae Parker who broke out after year 5. Normally you want to see that in year 2 or 3 for a wide receiver. They ended up paying him fine. Mike Gesicki emerged as a pretty good receiving target, and they have Preston Williams coming off injury. He got hurt. I think it was around week 11 last year, and he was starting to emerge as a reliable target for Ryan Fitzpatrick. Tua, I don't know what the Dolphins' plan is for him. He had that catastrophic hip injury where they were saying it could potentially be career-ending. So I don't know if they plan to let him sit a year, have Fitzpatrick throw it around, have a little bit more fun, and then have the developmental thing. I mean, it worked for Patrick Mahomes. I think Miami's shown that they're fully embracing the tank. trading away their best players. Laramie Tunsil to the Houston Texans last year. They traded Minka Fitzpatrick to the Steelers last year. They're not unwilling to get rid of their good players to reestablish a culture. So it's interesting to see what they've been doing down there.
I wouldn't say it's a tank, but it's definitely a rebuild. Because I think they had a great draft. They plugged in a lot of needs of this draft, which was a lot of what they traded away for.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just feel like they knew they weren't winning for a while. And they're like, why not start over right now while, reset and let's see. I mean, they're not gonna. They probably weren't anticipating Tom Brady leaving that division though. I'm not gonna lie. I think they were not anticipating that, because if they were, they probably wouldn't have done all that. Because now that division is kind of open for anyone to make playoffs. The Bills are probably going to be that one team. But still, it's the Bills aren't that much they're not that elite to where you can't take them over.
I mean, they have an elite defense. The Bills do. So So I mean, defense wins championships. That mantra or whatever people want to call it. And Josh Allen has improved every year since the last 2 years since he's been in the league. And they just added Stephon Diggs to the outside. So they're doing everything. It seems like these teams understand that they have developmental pieces, and they're trying to do everything they can to develop them, because without a quarterback, there is no winning. The quarterback's really essential. They touch the ball every play, even if it's just to hand the ball off. So it's really important to make sure that you get their confidence up. And Josh Allen is not lacking confidence, and you saw that last year when he did that lovely lateral in the playoffs. But I think it's good for his development. They give him weapons. They have 2 underneath options, Cole Beasley, John Brown. I think the Bills are a force to be reckoned with, and I think Miami needs a little more time to get there, to get to the Bills level. I think it's their division for the taking, personally.
Yeah. I mean, that defense is really elite, and now with the Stephon Diggs addition, their offense has a chance to be elite, but we'll see.
Yep.
All right. How do you feel about Tua, Matt? You haven't said much about him. Oh, you're frozen.
All right. Hopefully he'll join back with us soon. Well, we can keep pushing on. We can talk about Justin Herbert. So Justin Herbert selected 6th overall, came out of Oregon.
Everything, yeah.
Hey, Matt, you there?
Am I back?
Your voice is back.
Am I back?
Your voice is back.
Your voice is back, and that's all we need for our audio podcast.
Makes sense.
Anyways, we were moving on to Justin Herbert, selected 6th overall out of Oregon, went to the Los Angeles Chargers. It's a good landing spot, good offense, good defense. People really had them pegged as a favorite, as a contender last year to go to the Super Bowl. Didn't work out, obviously.
Definitely
picking 6th overall. But it does say something that they have the pieces in place in order to compete.
Yeah, they have good receiving core. I really like Mike Williams, both him and Keenan Allen, of course. And they have Hunter Henry. Plus, they have Eckler, who's another receiver, pretty much. That's a great landing spot for our quarterbacks to grow in. When do you guys think he's gonna play? If this year, because they're probably gonna have a bad record. So I can see him just being thrown in the fire. Like, hey, no pressure. We're the lost season already lost. Just go do what you can do.
I think Anthony Lynn has shown that he has confidence in Tyrod. This is the second time with Tyrod in the NFL. And he was quoted saying that he thinks Tyrod's much better than he was the first time around. They have a roster that can compete. They've shored up the offensive line a little bit. They traded for Trey Turner from Carolina. And they got what's his name? Balaga from Green Bay. So that's great. So it's going to be interesting to see if they actually make a push, because they have the roster to do it right now. I think Mike Williams is on the last year of his deal, so he'll have to pay him soon. Keenan Allen, I believe, has 2 more years left. So their window is now. I think they're trying to. I don't know if they're going to try to tread water with Tyrod until they get to a point where they feel as though like, hey, we're not going to actually make any noise this year, and then they turn the reins over to Herbert. We'll see how they do. What do you think, Matt?
So you think he's gonna start this year or next year?
Oh, I think it's going to be see how he does. If they get to a point where I think if they get to a point where they see the season has lost, then then he'll start because they're going to say, F it, why not? Throw him out there. Let's see how he does. I remember specifically when Patrick Mahomes, before the year that he broke out last year, in training camp, they had I remember a report specifically talking about he's thrown a ton of interceptions. And it came out later once we found out he was great. He did it because he was like, I'm just trying things out to see how it works. Seeing what I can get away with in the NFL, testing it out. Why not in practice? These are athletes. They're still competitive, even though they're on my team.
Great point.
So I'm interested to see if they kind of throw Justin Herbert out there to see if he can perform at the appropriate level or not. I wasn't particularly a fan of him, to be honest, though.
Yeah, he's really raw. So, I mean, just give him time. We'll see. Time will tell on him.
Am I back on video by any chance?
Yeah, you've been back for a while.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, perfect. Well, but yeah, I pretty much agree with everything like that you guys have been saying. His arm is incredibly strong. He's almost like a Drew Lock. Like the arm talent is insane, but some of the misses that he had in college are like 10 yards over a wide open receiver. So his lack of accuracy scares me, but I feel like he'll end up getting in the game or getting in a few games this year. I don't know if he'll start more than 8 or like half the season, but I don't know.
No,
I like the pick.
If he starts at all this season, I'm gonna guess week 10 or later. Maybe even 12.
Yeah. I think they're going for it because they only made 6 selections in this year's draft. They had Herbert, Kenneth Murray, the middle linebacker, the inside linebacker out of Oklahoma. They picked the running back Josh Kelly, and then 3 later round picks in the 5th, 6th, and 7th. So just by the selections that they did make, the quarterback, linebacker, running back, it seems like they're really trying to win now. If it doesn't go well, then they have their quarterback. But so I think that they're going to give Tyrod every chance to succeed, and they're going to try to be competitive in this first year with him under helm. Personally.
Yeah.
Perfect.
All right. Well, number 4, that's going to be Henry Ruggs, out of course, Alabama. This was a head scratcher for me until I realized who the Vegas Raiders are, and they just love speed guys. But like, when I was just watching the draft, my jaw was on the floor that he was the first receiver picked.
It's so dumb.
Like, as speedy as he is, as great as he is, like, this class is so deep. You could have gotten Judy or Lamb over him, and then if they're not there, if they're not there later on, then I don't know. Raiders all over it.
Yeah. I mean, Derek Carr has been touted as a kind of underneath thrower. He's not a bad deep ball thrower, but it's not his forte. It's not his preference. That's why players like Hunter Renfrow, the rookie last year, and Darren Waller succeeded because he wasn't throwing the ball deep to Tyrell Williams. They had Jordy Nelson. He wasn't really throwing it to him. I mean, he didn't really. They weren't throwing it to him a ton. A lot of his stuff was to Jalen Richard, to his running backs. Josh Jacobs got it a little bit, but it was Jalen Richard. It was the other running back they had over there. I forget his name. DeAndre Washington. A lot of underneath stuff. So I don't know what they're trying to do. Maybe they're trying to open up the offense a bit with a speed guy. They're known to do this, to do that Oakland style drafting where they want the big sexy receiver, real fast. What is it? Dorial Green Beckham went there. So, I mean, well, it's going to be interesting. I do like the way John Gruden uses his receivers. It's just going to be interesting to see what they have in mind for him.
I hate the pick.
Yeah,
It's one of probably, I think I had 2 like complete mind-blowing reactions to picks.
I know
Henry
that's
Ruggs, what the Raiders needed was a true number one wide receiver, a.k.a. CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy.
Yes.
Henry Ruggs is never going to be that number one receiver in the NFL. He's very limited in terms of the routes he can run. And in the West Coast offense, which is Gruden's forte, a lot of the successful routes run and the routes that are, you rub off to get open are the routes that Ruggs is very inefficient when he's running them. He's very sloppy. So it was just a very weird pick to me. Just his style of play. I mean, I guess he's going to try and take the top off some defense if they let Carr throw the ball 30, 40 yards down the field a few times a game. Yeah, maybe he'll catch one or two of those, but it was just really weird to me.
Very weird to me. Just so bizarre. But until I realized who the Raiders are.
Yeah, that's a Mayock and Gruden pick.
I mean, it's not uncommon for these teams to go reach for speed. You got the John Rosses of the world. You have, players like that they automatically get shot up the draft board once they go through their 40 time, just because they're fast. But it doesn't work out a lot of the time. But I think that Ruggs is more than just a speed guy. I wouldn't say a refined route runner whatsoever. It's going to be interesting to see what he does with him being the alpha or presumed alpha, depending on how they use him. But I think that he could develop into not Tyreek Hill. I'm not going to say that, but like maybe a better version of Deshaun Jackson, a Ted Ginn. Which is very it's not necessarily as fantasy friendly, but it is good for an actual NFL team, and that's what they're going for. They're not trying to win a fantasy championship. They're trying to win football games, and I think they accomplished that with that pick. Because I don't think he was so far off that you're going to say they're going to regret this going forward. I think it could very well and very easily work out for him. He's not a bad player.
Like I guess his biggest upside would be to be like Tyreek Hill, but.
Well, I mean, another thing for Tyreek Hill is Tyreek Hill because he has Patrick Mahomes. So
I was going to add that. Like, definitely not Patrick Mahomes over there in Vegas.
Yeah, but, I mean, Kansas City has the advantage. They have Patrick Mahomes, greater sign Derek Carr, Andy Reid, greater sign John Gruden. The organization is just more stable. The Raiders have been known to take in all the misfits and things like that. That's not necessarily a culture that always breeds success. Not saying the Chiefs have been very successful ever, really, beside this past 3 years. But still, like, I think that it's going to be important. It is important that he landed in a place that they're going to do their best, give him every opportunity to succeed. And I think that Ruggs has that in Oakland, in Vegas. Gotta get used to that.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I guess we'll see. Yeah, how that works.
And
out.
I mean, that is if Derek Carr keeps his job. We'll see if Mariota steals it, just like he lost his job.
But is that better for him?
What?
Is that better for Ruggs if Mariota gets it, Derek Carr has it? They seem like two different types of the same type of garbage.
They're both. Yeah, I was gonna say something along those lines. They're both not deep ball throwers. So yeah, I don't know how that'll work out.
We'll see. It's gonna be interesting to watch, though.
It definitely will be. Next is Sir Jerry Jeudy, and I think this is a slam dunk pick for the Broncos. Even though I think you don't agree, Matt, huh?
No, I mean, like, all day long it is.
Oh,
yes,
yeah. All right, yeah. Now they have Cortland Sutton and Jeudy, and then they got KJ Hamler in the second round. So their receivers are kind of they got to revamp their offense in one offseason. Now they have Melvin Gordon there too with Philip Lindsay. Oh man, I'm really excited to see the Broncos offense now. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, every opportunity for Drew Lock to succeed, they surrounded him with weapons, and they're going to say, like, all right, here you go. Let's see what you can do. I personally like Deshaun Hamilton, the guy they had before in the slot last year.
Yeah, I did as well, actually.
So I'm a little bit surprised that they took KJ Hamler there because he typically plays the slot a lot of the time. He did at Penn State last year. Smaller speed guy. I think he's like 5'9"-ish.
Yeah.
Very fast, very electric. But I guess Deshaun Hamilton wasn't getting it done for them. And don't forget that they also selected a third receiver in the 7th round. I mean, it's the 7th round. But Tyree Cleveland out of Florida, he was a good player.
Yeah.
He was good at high pointing the ball. I mean, once you get to the 7th round, you're just taking shots. But I think it's very clear what they did with their offense. They want to get Drew Lock in position to succeed. So be interesting to watch.
I'm really interested in that defense though.
Yeah.
They're like switching their what's it called? Why are the Broncos like always switching their like team philosophies? Like it went from heavy offense to heavy defense back to heavy offense now. It's weird.
I think it just depends on the coach they have at the time and how they tailor their offense. I think their priority is quarterback, developing the quarterback. So I think that's why they went in that direction.
Yeah, like if Drew Lock doesn't succeed, they'll know now it's Drew Lock.
Yeah.
That's the problem. But yeah,
sure.
Judy's probably the best. He spent almost all of his time out of the slot at Alabama, and he's probably the best pure route runner. He's got great size, great route running ability. I think, like you said, I think it's a slam dunk pick. I just don't know if they're going to play, like I said, would have to play Judy in the slot and Hamler and Sutton outside.
You would think Hamler would go outside?
That's I don't know. Judy's so much bigger than him and could be an outside receiver, but just the fact that he's an elite slot guy, I just don't know if they're going to say, screw it, we're going to keep him in the slot.
I mean, he's a great route runner. So
I mean, Hamler's. I just looked it up. He's 5'9". It doesn't really profile for the prototypical outside receiver.
Yeah, no.
He's not winning any jump balls or anything
trying
like
to just
that.
outrun somebody, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, Jerry Judy's not slow at all. I think that he could. He could play like a Stephon Diggs type, where he plays inside and out. They're just moving him around depending on the matchup. So
yeah, he's what 6'1"?
Something like that.
6'1", 193. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be interesting, for sure.
Perfect.
All right. Our next pick is also a receiver. That's CD Lamb. This was obviously a best player available type situation for the Cowboys because they needed
That's weird.
And I'm kind of surprised they did not get Xavier McKinney. He was still on the board. I guess they thought he wasn't as valuable as a prospect as CeeDee Lamb was, but
no, that's all splash. Come on now, that's Jerry Jones saying, "Hey, I want this guy. Go get him. Go get him. Go get him."
I guess, yeah, but I don't know. I mean, time will tell because now their offense is probably going to be top 3, if not the best in the league this year. What were they, number 1 last? No, they were number 2 last year behind. No, they're number 1 last year, and that was without Lamb. So
were they ahead of the Ravens?
No, I'm sorry, they were not. They were not. No.
I mean, they were a top 5 offense. Yeah, they were really good, but they didn't make the playoffs. So good for. I mean, what does that? Good for you.
Yeah.
They couldn't win the weakest division in football. They couldn't beat a Philadelphia Eagles team that had no receivers, throwing it to their tight ends and running backs over and over. Some guy named Greg Ward.
That was such a sad game to watch from both sides. Made me so glad to not be a Cowboys or Eagles fan in that game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more interesting when you get into like a fantasy conversation and you're saying like, so what do you expect from CeeDee Lamb? What do you expect from Michael Gallup? What do you expect from Amari Cooper, who they just paid $100 million?
You also had to feed Zeke too.
Right. So, I mean, I think it becomes kind of, cloudy about like who's is it going to switch game to game? Who's going to be the one to get hot? Which is probably smart for real football, but for someone that's like looking in it from a fantasy scope, you're going to want to know, like, that's why we like the Rams last year, because even though you didn't know who Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, or Cooper Kupp would be, Jared Goff was basically only going to those 3. I mean, Todd Gurley got his last year, but those receivers you could usually have in your all 3 in your top 30 because they were consistently getting funneled the ball. They made kind of a switch last year when they started going more tight end heavy, but that's the kind of offenses that I like to gravitate to in fantasy, where I know that you're going to get 7, 8, 9 targets, at least opportunities, and opportunity is king in fantasy.
I actually like CeeDee Lamb for fantasy purposes. You probably don't agree with me, but like now that you have him as a number 2 or number 3 receiver, he's gonna get the weaker cornerbacks. He's not gonna have number 1 corners. They're all gonna be on Amari Cooper for sure. You also have the defense looking at Zeke too. So I think CeeDee Lamb's gonna be open a lot. I think he's gonna get a lot of touchdowns, but not a lot of he's gonna get a lot of touchdowns, but not a lot of catches. Yeah.
But for something like that, that's like a tight end. You don't want that. If they don't get if they get 4 catches, 40 yards, and a touchdown, you're happy because that's 10, 11, 12 points depending on your scoring. But if they don't get that touchdown, then you have 4 catches for 40 yards. That does you no good. So I don't like that outcome when I'm looking at fantasy players, when I'm trying to determine, use it as a tiebreaker. It's like, well, I can guess that you're a better player, but you're not in as good a situation as like a Devontae Parker. That is, even though I don't like him as nearly as much this year, but I'm going to pick him before CeeDee Lamb because they're not throwing it to anybody else. Preston Williams is there a little bit, Gesicki's there, but that's only 2 other options. The Cowboys have 5. So
I mean, they also have Albert Wilson a lot high, sort of like, but I agree.
Albert Wilson, you stop it.
I kind of like him.
Don't bring him up. I'll trade him to you. I'll draft him and trade him to you.
That would work if I was doing a league with you, but you're a bum. I don't do leagues with bums.
Anyways.
Yeah.
And do you think, for CeeDee Lamb, just talking about like his on-field production, Michael Gallup is still there. He was emerging last year as a very good player. So I think people just assume because the Cowboys went first round with the wide receiver, that doesn't mean Dak will go to him every single time. There's a trust that's built between receivers and quarterbacks. So I think it's going to be interesting. I'm looking at Gallup's game log right here, and going from week 11 on, his yardage was 148, 55, 63, 109, 6, 98, 98. So that doesn't just disappear because you drafted someone new.
People shouldn't forget about Gallup. This doesn't mean that Gallup's going away, like whatsoever.
That's wild. They have 3 like dog receivers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a very good receiving core, very good receiving room. So we'll see what they end up doing with it.
Yeah. Maybe since they lost Witten, even though he wasn't the best tight end as of late, they're going to run more just outright 3 wide receiver sets because they know Blake Jarwin isn't as talented of a guy at tight end that they've had in a while. So I don't know.
He's more talented than Witten, though.
Right now, okay, checks out.
I'm so surprised that he actually went to Vegas instead of retiring.
He needs to let go.
So weird to me.
That's fine. You also got to remember they got Mike McCarthy now, new offensive mind in there. He said he spent the last year studying film and doing these things, trying to figure out how to adapt to the new modern NFL and things like that. That's all fine and good. But what is his offense going to look like? We haven't seen him apart from Aaron Rodgers. So where Aaron Rodgers typically likes to spread everything out so we can see what else is going on the defensive side. So I don't know if he's going to run 3 wide sets or 2 tight ends or whatever he's going to do. Who knows what a Mike McCarthy offense looks like or if it's even good. He could be Freddie Kitchens 2.0.
Ooh, don't do him like that.
Bang, bang.
Don't do him like that.
So
that's so disrespectful to call Freddie Kitchens like that. Oh,
but yeah, so we'll see how it turns out.
So speaking of the Eagles and their lack of receivers last year, this year was with our 7th pick of the 11 skill players, Eagles selected Jalen Reagor. Another head scratcher pick to me. You have Justin Jefferson up there, and you take Jalen. Like that's such a Philly pick to me.
It's interesting because
Jalen Reagor had such like a jumbled. I don't even know how to describe it. Some teams thought he was the 8th overall receiver, and some teams thought he should have been the 2nd or 3rd receiver. He had I didn't want to say he had a horrible combine, but if you were watching the combine and he ran the 4.47 and you looked up in the stands when they panned over to the owners, everyone's like mouths were just hanging wide open because the way Jalen plays on film and in the game is way faster than the 4.47. He's a great route runner. He has that breakaway speed. So, I mean, I don't think he's obviously as polished as a route runner as Judy or Lamb, but Deshaun Jackson's getting old, and they expressed, was it last year? I thought they just outright said or were trying to trade him, that he was on a trade block, but I might be wrong about that.
I don't think so because
I don't think so.
Yeah, because he had that very good first game and then he got injured, like he does. Came back maybe 3, 4, or 5 weeks later and then got hurt again and then never played. It was something in his chest cavity or something.
Then again, okay, the injuries. I'm sure they were thinking Jalen Reagor would replace that Deshaun Jackson type player. They traded for Marquise Goodwin, which kind of clouds that. I don't know.
They got a bunch of guys that can run down the field. It's weird.
So like, I guess
same
like,
type of guys.
Like I guess like my thought, what they're thinking is they plan to keep Alshon for a little bit longer, and they didn't want another Alshon type receiver and Justin Jefferson. And
they already have. Well, I wouldn't say
AJ.
Justin Jefferson is a slot receiver. He played primarily out of the slot at LSU last year, so it's not necessarily like a big, strong receiver like Alshon. They have J.J. Arcega-Whiteside that they drafted last year. That's kind of an Alshon Jeffrey archetype.
Yeah.
Not a very.
I don't know. It's weird. Like it's just another Eagles pick.
I mean, it's obvious they needed depth at the position. Deshaun Jackson's constantly injured. Alshon Jeffrey constantly injured. I mean, they need receiver help. They have J.J. Arcega-Whiteside. They have Greg Ward. They traded for Marquise Goodwin. Now they got Jalen Reagor. So aside from that, I mean, they do like to throw to the tight ends and running backs a lot. So they don't need the best of bodies per se, but they do need someone there. So I understand the way they address the need. It looks like they got their guy because Jalen Reagor doesn't – I mean, he's a 5'11", 205-pound receiver. He's not that big, strong Alshon Jeffrey type. So it's interesting to see what they're going to do with him or what they have planned for him.
I don't know. I guess they're thinking that he did well enough for the bad QB in college that he's going to do good with a bad QB in NFL as well.
You don't like Wentz?
No, I don't like Wentz. I do not like Wentz. I used to, but I think he's overrated.
Why is he overrated? Because he had one good year in the league, like Lamar Jackson.
Next person.
We're going to get off topic here.
Next person. Didn't be heated over here.
Yeah. What do we got here? Justin Jefferson.
Yeah, Sir Justin Jefferson.
I love Justin Jefferson. I wish he went to Green Bay.
Well, no, he did not go to Green Bay. We're going to talk about Green Bay's player later on. But
we can skip over him.
Yes, they got Justin Jefferson, who he's definitely not going to be as productive as Stephon Diggs, but a great replacement. And plus, for what the rest of the haul they got for him, it worked out perfectly for the Vikings. Time will tell if it worked out for the Bills, but for the Vikings, it definitely worked out. Now, I mean, who do you think is going to play slot, Thielen or Jefferson?
I think that they'll both play slot. I don't see why you need to exclusively leave one in one spot and make the other guy play on the outside if they're both capable of doing both. I did say that Justin Jefferson played primarily out of the slot as LSU last year, but that's not to say that he cannot play on the outside. There were reps he took outside and was successful. So I think that they're going to mix and match the receivers. They have BC Johnson there. I think they're planning to, stick with the ground and pound. They have Irv Smith Jr. that they drafted last year out of Alabama. Yep. They got Kyle Rudolph that they just restructured his deal last year. So they see him as part of their plans, I believe. And Dalvin Cook, of course. So I think they're going to stick with, the dip and dunk, the not necessarily test you downfield, but just run it down your throat and hit you smash mouth football.
Yeah, it's going to be the same exact offense as last year.
And I thought it was a good offense. Their defenses will let them down. And
yep,
they're probably going to do the same thing again this year, to be honest. So.
And they lost Xavier Rhodes, but they replaced him with Jeff Gladney. So, I mean, Xavier Rhodes had a terrible year last year.
Yeah. I think it's just because Xavier, he's a handsy receiver. I mean, corner. So he's typically bigger and stronger than everyone, so he's used to being able to manhandle everyone. But if you're not, if your footwork starts to slip, then you're not in the right position. They're just going to run by you, and I feel like that happened more often than the Vikings would have liked last year.
Yeah. All right. Next is Brandon Ayuk. I don't know his name.
That's right. That's right.
Okay.
Ayuk.
All right. Good. I think it's a good pick for the Niners. I think he's a great fantasy. I think he's gonna be a great fantasy player. To grab. He's gonna come in pretty much replace Emmanuel Sanders. On that team. But man, I know it's kind of off topic, but I love Deebo Samuel. I think he's have a great sophomore year as well. But man, that's such a great receiver. To have both of them now, that's gonna be a pretty good addition for
Garoppolo.
Yes, Jimmy Garoppolo.
He's Ayuk himself is a lot like Debo. He's that they've both got crazy looking bodies. They're like 5'11" or 6 foot, but they're 205 pounds, so they're like kind of short and stocky, but they're fast at the same time. I love it because they've got like running back bodies. So I mean, Ayuk all through college, he's a great West Coast-ish receiver where he'll run these short 5 to 10 yard intermediate routes and just take it to the house, based on speed and his ability to break tackles alone. But what I didn't like at the combine is that he ran the 4.5 flat. He's like Jalen Reagor. He looks a lot faster in game film. Like he's always 3-4 yards ahead in these deep balls in game film. So I don't know why or how he ran the 4.5, but I mean I like the pick a lot. It just adds more weapons. I
mean, he could just be a receiver who gets a lot more speed as he gets going and not good acceleration speed.
You can't use the 40 time as an end-all be-all, though, because, you have players like Antonio Brown, I think, and this is off the top of my head, but I think Antonio Brown ran a 4.56. I think DeAndre Hopkins ran a 4.54. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, Dalvin Cook has been documented as having a horrible combine. Some people just don't test well. Like it's supposed to validate what you already see on film. If you see him play fast, he probably plays fast. He doesn't have to think because it comes naturally to him. You can't really track that in a test.
Yeah, because in combine, it could be a lot of nerves. Like, it could just be straight nerves,
Right.
Yeah, I do agree with that, Sean.
So I always try to use it. That's why I think that it's always best to, look at a guy on tape and see how he plays against the competition. High pointing the ball, balance for running back, certain things like that. And then you just use the combine to validate. You're like, okay, he's just as fast as I thought, or he's faster. I was like, okay, that's great. You just don't want – I mean, you shouldn't use it as a gauge to say like, oh, he's faster than him, so he's better. But he might not be as good with his hands, so he can't get off the line as well. He can't escape the press. He doesn't run the route as well, so he's a lot of wasted movement, a lot of wasted energy. So it's like a holistic picture you got to take. You got to take a holistic approach to evaluating these guys. At least I try to.
And in that Shanahan offense, Ayuk might be doing things that these other receivers that we talked about won't be doing. Just like Deebo Samuel last year, Ayuk's probably going to be taking these end arounds. He's going to have some rushes too, like these end arounds, reverses, tosses. So I mean, I like the pick in general.
He's probably going to return the punts as well. And return the kicks, maybe. He was a good return specialist in college.
Interesting. Normally, I don't like receivers and running offenses, but they don't have anyone else. George Kittle's the number one. Debo and Ayuk is going to be the 2/3.
I'm telling you right now, though. Okay.
Don't say Jalen Hurd.
Jalen Hurd.
Oh my God.
A lot of go back and look. A lot of the beat writers last year said Jalen Hurd for the 5 days of camp where he was actually not injured, looked like the best receiver on the field. So I don't know how much you could take that into account, but I mean I love Jalen Hurd. So let's see what's going on with that.
Well, we know Sean loves Dante Pettis, so maybe he'll do better.
Blows always did.
God, I hate him. I drafted him everywhere.
Did you?
Last year he thought Dante Pettis was a sleeper.
He had a great end of the year. Are you kidding me? It was a great end of the year. I'll pull it up while we're talking. Go.
Checks out, I guess. I mean, a lot of people thought he was going to be.
Slept all season.
God.
He's a deep sleeper.
God, he was disappointing. Sorry.
Yeah. Now the next pick is.
All right, here we go. Hold on. Here we go. Real quick.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead and say Mr. Pettis' stats.
Okay, here we go. From week 12 on, last 5 games of the season, or 5 games of the season, 4 catches, 77, a touchdown. 5 catches, 129, 2 touchdowns. 43 catches, 49, and a touchdown. 5 for 83, and then 3 for 21. Whatever. That's a great ending.
2018?
2018, his rookie year, the last 5 games. That's a great – he had 5, 6 touchdowns in those games alone. They had no one else. Deebo Samuel wasn't on the team yet. So, I mean, why would you think that anyone else was going to do anything? I think Pierre Garçon was still on the team back in 2018. He retired or left or whatever happened to him. Getting riled up, but he messed.
Yeah, we got Sean his feelings.
Jesus God.
Talking about Mr. Dante Pettis.
I'm talking about getting messed up. Let's go to the next pick, which is the
dumbest thing I've
probably seen in all of draft history.
Talking about getting Sean in his feelings. This is my favorite pick of this draft, but in all seriousness, and by far the worst first round pick of this draft. Oh my God, and Sean is gone.
Turn off my camera.
Yeah. No,
I almost sent them like an email.
A strongly worded email.
Yeah.
And you're not even a fan. That's how bad it was.
Moron.
Like, I somewhat sort of get the Aaron Rodgers the same year that Brett Favre was when Aaron Rodgers was drafted, but Jordan Love is nowhere near Aaron Rodgers. What are they thinking with so many other needs at receiver, at linebacker, at
even offensive line.
Offensive line, yeah. Like you could.
I don't know if we had those needs.
You're insane. Oh yeah, you're the guy who didn't agree about like the linebacker.
Oh, so you love Jordan Love as a pick?
No, I'm just saying that we didn't need linebackers. Christian Kirksey from Cleveland's good. We got Oren Burks. Very good. Preston Smith and Zadarius. That's a great starting.
No one knows about Oren Burks. He played like one game.
I was talking about inside linebacker.
Oren Burks is an inside linebacker.
I know. I was referring to Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith. But what's this? And I mean, you guys needed receivers. You guys needed
everything.
Yeah, like not everything, but like definitely not a quarterback. What the fuck?
I will tell you though, it's worth it in fantasy to take a few late night. Ooh.
Whoa.
Having a late shots on Alan Lazard. I mean, second receiver in that offense. They have no one else to throw it to. They have Aaron Jones. They have Devontae Adams. Jay Sternberger was injured all last year.
What is with you and not acknowledging Devin Funchess?
Devin Funchess, right? I'm thinking the same thing.
Just like the rest of the world is starting to realize, like, oh, they don't need it. A lot of people think that's why they didn't take a wide receiver first.
It could just be stupid.
No, Devin Funchess was.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. It's the Packers.
My God.
It's going to be Adams and Funchess on the outside.
Yeah,
all these little girls like Lazard and
little girls. I can't. I mean, to be fair to Funchess, he's only 26. He's still not old. He feels old because he plays old, but it's fine.
Huge and good. So.
They needed someone to replace Jimmy Graham as the big fat guy on the field.
I knew it was something negative. As soon as I saw Jimmy Graham, I was like, oh no. Let's see what I have to say about Funchess.
We'll see. I mean, Jordan Love, I did like him as a prospect. And when mocking him out, I thought he was going to go to the Saints. It seemed like a more obvious choice, but Green Bay felt differently.
I thought he was going to the Saints as well, but definitely not Green Bay.
I think it shows that the Green Bay management believes that they can win with the team they have assembled. Obviously, they were 13-3, right? They were almost in the Super Bowl. They did a good job last year, even though it was kind of a shaky 13-3. I think they're really trying to embrace this power run offense. So,
you say they're almost in the Super Bowl?
Almost, they're almost there.
They lost first in the wild card game, didn't they?
No, we didn't. We had a bye.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh yeah, it was a conference.
Pulled the Ravens. Pulled the Ravens. Lost at home.
No, we lost in the conference championship.
Yeah,
49ers.
I just don't get why they're trying to.
Dogged by
we were almost in the Super Bowl.
No, you got dogged by the Niners.
At least we got right
Okay,
before the Super Bowl.
people.
Like dogged.
How many
If
playoff
you
games
see my
has
face
Lamar
right now?
Jackson won? As many as you have.
Next player.
I just don't know why they went when they
Yeah.
have Aaron Rodgers on the team. Why are you trying to switch to a power freaking run offense?
I don't get why you're not trying to win right now.
What?
I don't get why they're not trying to win right now. Tom Brady
Exactly.
just got signed for a whatever year deal, and he's 45. I don't understand. Aaron Rodgers is 10 years younger. Why can't he play for another 4 or 5 years? You could find another guy in 3 or 4 years and make it more understandable. But
they could have taken a receiver here in like Jalen Hurts in the second round or third round or wherever you want.
Denzel Mims, T. Higgins, they could have moved up and gotten someone. They moved up.
For Jordan Love. Oh, if you see my face right now, why is my camera not working?
Let's go to the next freaking person.
Okay.
Next
Clyde.
and last player.
This is the most
Mr.
interesting.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of LSU. I think it's a great position pick. I think they should have got DeAndre Swift since they love to throw the ball, and he's a great receiver back.
DeAndre Swift was my favorite.
Why would you not get Swift if you're gonna get running back? But no, that running back is their biggest position need besides probably a corner. But at that point in the draft, there's more corners available. You could have gotten a running back there. But why Clyde?
I guess Andy Reid. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, I don't understand this pick, even though a lot of like the beat writers and everything were saying that they picked him because one of the main reasons is because his running style in college, where he was just a bulldozer like Doug Martin was, just a mini muscle guy. But he is not going to run over Bobby Wagner in the NFL. These linebackers are way – it's another animal. Like, I don't know why they would have taken him. I know Swift is only like an inch and a half taller and about 3 or 4 pounds heavier, but Swift is a little –
I think he's twitchier. I like Swift.
A lot twitchier, yeah.
I like Swift as well.
I think this is going to backfire. But, I mean, it came out that Mahomes literally made this pick. Like, Andy Reid. Did you guys read that?
I don't know why. No, I didn't read that.
But yeah, no, apparently Andy Reid, when they were up, Andy Reid called Mahomes and said, who do you want, Swift, Taylor, or Helaire? And he said Helaire because he thinks his hands are better.
Wow.
Well, better than Taylor's, for sure.
Yeah, but I don't think better than
interesting.
Swift's. And Mahomes said he thought Helaire was a better pass blocker as well, so I don't know.
I would probably say,
maybe.
I guess.
He's definitely bigger. He's definitely bigger, so he probably could block better. That made sense.
I don't know if he's bigger.
But he's not. That's the weird thing.
I think he's smaller than them too.
Yeah.
God.
But anyways, I think it has something to do with, I mean, if you look at Helaire came out of LSU's offense, they threw it plenty. Georgia is more for a ground game. So he just didn't have Swift wouldn't have as many reps getting pass protection. So, I mean, it makes sense.
And Helaire still had 16 touchdowns and 1,400 yards in that offense.
Everyone fed it feasted in that offense.
Everyone ate.
I mean, I guess this is one of those wait and see type picks, but
is he not the 101 in rookie dynasty drafts for anyone?
Oh, all of them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just wondering if there's any. I mean, everyone wants a piece of that Chiefs offense. You want to have an opportunity to, like, they're going to get 4 or 5, 6 times the chances to score every game.
But what about Damian Williams though? He could have been the MVP of the Super Bowl. Like, I just don't understand.
Should have been.
It's his last. It's his last year on his deal, and he got hurt a lot of times. So I don't expect him to. I don't expect him to be in the future.
And if you think about it, when Kareem Hunt came out, the only reason why he got an opportunity and had that bonkers game against the Patriots 3 years ago is because Spencer Ware got hurt in preseason. And then he took it and ran. And
then Kareem Hunt took over that job and stole his job.
Right. It's going to be interesting to see what Andy Reid does, if he wants to use the 2 running backs or if they give Damian Williams the first crack at it as the vet. So,
yeah, we'll see. But yeah, Clyde Edwards-Helaire ends our 11 skill players in the first round. I will post our our 11 players in our Facebook if you want to look at that. And we'll see you guys next time.
All right.
Bye.